You know, I love skipping stones. It's one of my favorite things to do. I don't know why, but I find it very difficult to walk by a body of water and not skip a stone or two. I'm here at Hemlock Lake, the second westernmost of the Finger Lakes, which is about 1.5 miles from my house. And Hemlock Lake is really interesting because this lake right here is where Rochester gets all of their water. This lake is about 24 miles from Rochester, and the water is gravity fed through a pipe from here at Hemlock Lake to Rochester, New York. Now, what's interesting about that is back in 1890, when Rochester decided that this was going to be their water supply, there was a whole bunch of cottages and farms around this lake. And the city of Rochester claimed eminent domain. And they paid fair market price or fair market value for all of the cottages and the farms around because they didn't want anything polluting this lake since it is Rochester's city water. And they gave the residents 5 years. Those that sold got fair market price. Those, however, that held out and didn't sell, after 5 years, the city just seized it. The reason I'm saying that is Chapter 8 is all about sustainability, corporate social responsibility, and ethics. And I really want to talk about sustainability and corporate social responsibility. We know as business people that a corporation's obligation is to the shareholders. If the corporation turns a profit, the shareholders make money, everybody's happy. We also know that they have a responsibility to be sustainable. But I actually want to ask you a question. I want you to think about this question. Does a corporation have an obligation? And I mean an obligation beyond whatever law dictates, like the EPA or something like that. Do they have an obligation to be socially responsible and sustainable? I think the answer to that is yes. I think they have an obligation. Some corporations take that obligation seriously, some don't. But anyways, I think it's a good lead-in to ethics and social responsibility, which is what we're going to discuss in Chapter 8. Now, one more stone and we'll be done. As I said in the introduction, this chapter is all about ethics and social responsibility in marketing and marketing strategy. So to start with, on an introduction, there is no place to hide in this world. With the growth of social media and the growth of the internet and the growth of lack of privacy, anything that a company does is immediately public. And so the importance of marketing ethics and social responsibility becomes even greater. And the reason is because people keep tabs on that. It hits the news, it hits Twitter, it hits Instagram, all of those different social media sites. So it can considerably damage a company's reputation, or it could considerably contribute significantly to a company's bottom line. People have a choice in the products that they buy, in the services that they use, in the companies that they do business with. And by not being socially responsible or being ethically responsible, people will understand that, and it can truly damage your reputation, damage your bottom line, or conversely, it certainly can help. I've said this in every single one of my lectures. Ethics and social responsibility and profitability are not mutually exclusive. You can be ethically and socially responsible and also be very profitable. As a matter of fact, some would even believe that the more ethical and the more social responsible you are, the more profitable you will become, because people will want to do business with you. You'll grow your market share, you'll grow your business, and those types of things. So to get into it, let's start with ethics and social responsibility and marketing strategy. Social responsibility is really a broad term. It relates to an organization's obligation not only to sustainability, which we talked about in the introduction, and not only ethical, economically being ethical and equitable responsibility, but it also has to do with legal and philanthropic, as well as the way you treat people, as the way you treat your employees. For instance, Amazon for a while was getting a bad name because they were overworking their employees. The employees were tweeting it, and Amazon actually got a bad name. Same thing with Walmart and those types of things. So the dimensions of social responsibility is very vast. It really starts with economic responsibility. Being economically responsible, not cheating on your taxes, not cheating other suppliers or customers, and actually doing the right thing. Then it goes to legal, then ethical, and then philanthropic. So let's start with economic and legal responsibilities. They have a responsibility. Firms have a responsibility to their stakeholders and their shareholders. Now, there's a difference between stakeholders and shareholders. Shareholders are those that invest in the company and own shares within the company. Stakeholders, though, go beyond that. Stakeholders are all of the people, companies, cities that the firm touches. So it's the city in which the firm is. It's the employees. It's the state that they work in. All of those things are stakeholders. It's also the suppliers that they deal with. It's the customers that they have. It's the entire value chain. So there is an expectation to obey the law at a minimum. But to go beyond that is to contribute to the city, the county, the region in which you're working, to make it a better place, not only for employees, but for other things. Look at Fisher. We give back with Teddy. We give back with our CEL, Community Engaged Learning. All of those people are stakeholders within St. John Fisher. Kodak was also very philanthropic when they were a thing. And Rochester grew and thrived because of Kodak and the way that they employed people and the way that they did business. So the company's stakeholders goes beyond the shareholders. It goes to all of the people, the smaller businesses, the suppliers that the company actually touches. Ethical responsibility in marketing means safe products, true advertising, fair pricing standards, using a good supply chain and not buying from people that are not ethically responsible. It fosters trust. So it goes beyond the legal issues. You do the right thing, people will want to do business with you. And that's what I said before. Being ethical and being profitable are not mutually exclusive. Profitability comes with ethical responsibility. So marketing ethic decisions benefit the organizational performance. They benefit the individual achievement of the people that are working for them. They benefit the social acceptance of the community and the marketplace that they're working, and also, again, the stakeholders that I talked about before. So, obviously, there are laws, and a company needs to abide by the law. At the minimum, a company needs to be ethically compliant because of the laws. But it goes beyond that. It goes to discussing and addressing potential problems during the strategic planning process. And extensive ethics and company compliance that goes beyond the laws. and issues that come up that can't be ignored. For instance, a company has a product that doesn't pass our EPA requirements. So what do? Well, it's very unprofitable to trash the product, but it's also unethical to dump that product into another country that doesn't have as stringent EPA or ethical compliances for that. So we really need to focus on not only what's good for our company, but what's good for the environment, what's good for the people, and what's good out there. And then finally, philanthropic responsibilities. I always use Tom Golisano as an example. Tom Golisano and Paychex has been very philanthropic throughout the Rochester area with the Golisano Children's Home. And obviously he's contributed to Fisher, he's contributed to RIT and U of R. It's cause-related marketing. I keep talking about a bucket of chicken. I've never had a bucket of chicken, but one of these days I'm going to have a bucket of chicken. But Kentucky Fried Chicken actually during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October, donate a percentage of the proceeds from every bucket of chicken to breast cancer awareness. The NFL also does that. So it's philanthropic programs that not only help the company survive, but it helps the entire community around that company. Tom's is a great example. They donate a pair of shoes to every shoe they sell. So philanthropic organizations become very important in a community, and then people want to do business with that organization. And then finally, we talked about sustainability. Now, a lot of people think about sustainability with environment. Yes, environment is very important, but sustainability with hiring and firing practices, sustainability with who you deal with, not having child labor. Obviously, we don't have that in this country because there are laws, but in other countries, they don't have child labor laws. So to buy from some country or have a supplier in a country that is using child labor is not a sustainable practice. Environmental sustainability. And then also sustainability means an obligation to organize. If someone wants to have labor unions, they should be allowed to have labor unions, all those types of things. So it's not just the natural environment like you see here in the blue. It's all types of sustainability gains from an organization and the way the organization practices. Greenwashing is a term that involves misleading a customer. For many years, Walmart, although Walmart has gotten a lot better, Walmart has been saying that they're very sustainable. Yet they've been buying from other countries to keep their costs down that are using child labor and sweatshop labor and other things like that. That's an example of greenwashing. Yes, they're sustainable in this country, but they're buying from those that are not sustainable. Nike got into a lot of problems with using sweatshops for their clothing line in Southeast Asia. And although Nike is very sustainable here in the United States, buying from a sweatshop in Southeast Asia is not sustainable. That is not part of sustainability. And that has an example of greenwashing. So greenwashing is really misleading and pretending that you're sustainable, although you're not being sustainable in other ways. So marketing ethics and marketing strategies, principles in your marketing strategy guide your ethical behavior. Ethical companies benefit from customer trust and loyalty, less employee turnover. And remember, employee turnover is a real problem because you've got to spend the money to hire, you've got to spend the money to train, you've got to spend the money to bring these people up to speed. So you're actually losing productivity when that's happening. And ethical companies also benefit from greater profitability. Responsibility challenges, again, we know, especially from the introduction, that our number one obligation is to the shareholders. The number one obligation for any company is to make a profit, to make money. But business decisions involve complex and detailed discussions that involve sustainability, ethical, and social responsibility practices. And again, I've said it before, ethics and social responsibility is not different from profitability. With that, I'm going to close part 1, and we'll be back with ethical issues in the marketing program.